The Quabbalah is the science of the letters, the science of the word and the language, not though, of the intellectual, but, mark you, the universal language. The term Quabbalah derives from Hebrew. Some religious systems have a different term for this science. Thus, for instance, in India and Tibet, the science of the words is called Tantra. And again in other religious systems they talk of formulas, and so on. In my present work I keep to the term of Quabbalah. To speak Kabbalistically is to form words from letters, words analogous to this or that idea according to the universal laws. The use of the Kabbalistic language has to be trained practically. Quabbalah therefore is the universal language by which everything was made, it is the incarnation of one or several divine ideas. By means of Quabbalah, that is, the universal language, God has created everything. The evangelist St. John, in the Bible, is also referring to Quabbalah when saying, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God." Thereby St. John clearly says that God made use of the Word in order to create, by means of it, out of himself. Only he who is really able to materialize the divinity within himself in such a way that he will speak, out of himself, as deity in accordance with universal laws, may be regarded a true Quabbalist. The practicing Quabbalist therefore is a theist, a God incarnate, being able to apply the universal laws in the same way as the macrocosmic God. Just like the magician who, after his initiation and personal development towards perfection, has realized the connection with his deity within him can now act accordingly, the Quabbalist can do so, too, with the only difference that the Quabbalist is making use of the word divine when expressing his divine spirit externally. Every true magician having command of the universal laws can become a Quabbalist by appropriating to himself the knowledge of the practical Quabbalah. The structures of the Quabbalah cited in numerous books do certainly suit the theorist who wants to get an idea of the principles, but they are thoroughly insufficient for the practice which promises the correct application of the powers of the word. This clearly shows that a perfect Quabbalist must be a man connected with God, a man who has realized God within himself and who, being a God incarnate, makes use of the universal language materializing everything he says the very moment he says it. In whatever sphere he wants his language to materialize, there it will be materialized. In India, for instance, a man who can at once materialize every word he says is called a wag. In Kundalini Yoga this power and ability is identified with the Vishuddha center. A perfect Quabbalist knows all the rules of the micro and macrocosmic word, by which the law of the creation by the word is meant, and he also knows what true harmony is. A genuine Quabbalist will never violate the laws of harmony since he is representing, with his microcosmic language, the deity. If he acted contrary to the laws of harmony, he would not be a genuine Quabbalist but a Kaut. From the Hermetic point of view, a Quabbalist, or theist, is, in his body, a representative of the macrocosmic deity on our globe. Whatever he speaks in the original language, as God's representative, is done, for he has the same power as the Creator, as God has. To achieve this maturity and height of Quabbalistic initiation, the theist must first learn the letters like a child. He must have a complete command of them to be able to form words and sentences with them and to speak, eventually, in the cosmic language. The practice involved in this is dealt with in the practical part of this book. Anyone can occupy himself with the true Quabbalah, theoretically as well as practically, no matter what religious system he may adhere to. The Quabbalistic science thus is no privilege for people who profess the Hebrew religious system. The Hebrews do maintain that the Quabbalah is of Hebrew origin, but in Hebrew mysticism the knowledge of the Quabbalah is of Old Egyptian origin. The history of the Hebrew Quabbalah, its origin, development, etc., is to be found in the literature on the subject, for much has already been written about this field. In my book, the synthesis of Quabbalah is dealt with insomuch as it is absolutely necessary for the practice. I refrain from all unnecessary burdens of historic and other structures of Quabbalistic philosophy. The term Quabbalah has often been abused by degrading it to a play with numbers, horoscopic assessments, name analogies and various other mantic purposes. Although numbers do have a certain relation to letters, as the reader will be able to gather from the practical part of this book, this is one of the lowest aspects of the Quabbalah which we do not want to deal with in this place. True Quabbalah is no mantic science which makes fortune-telling possible, nor is it an astrology facilitating the interpretation of horoscopes or an anagram, the construed names of which make forecasts possible. Since the true Quabbalah, when applied correctly, represents the universal laws, relevant analogies of harmony in accordance with cosmic analogies are, up to a certain point, possible. This, however, is ordinary fortune-telling and has nothing to do with the true science of the universal language. The reader will agree that this science is most sacred and will never dare to degrade the universal laws to fulfill ordinary mantic purposes. Each religious system had its own genuine Quabbalah which it was gradually losing due to the various reforms of the religious systems. It is being fully maintained only in the Orient. The ancient Celts and Druids also had their genuine Quabbalah which was well known to Druid priests. The practical use of the runic magic by the Druid temple priests originates from their ancient knowledge of the Quabbalah. Today there are unfortunately only very few people who understand the runic Quabbalah of the old Druids and can apply it practically. The practical runic Quabbalah has been lost completely during the course of time.